Hello YouTube, what is up? My name is Ogsky, you can call me Andrew, and today I'll be ranking the BARD cards. Say that 10 times fast. The BARD cards from my game Deck Dads. If you don't know what Deck Dads is, you should check out my latest video. I will link it on screen somewhere. I go through the basics of how to play, and I play as the BARD, so you'll see some of these cards in action. Alternatively, you can check in the description where I have linked to Deck Dads you can play right now in the public playtest, and let me know how it goes. I'd be delighted to hear. One more thing quickly, I now have a Discord server, so if you'd like to get in on the action and give me some suggestions of what you'd like to see on the channel, please join. I'd be delighted to have you. The link for the Discord server is in the description. Without further ado, let's start ranking some of these cards. In order to rank these cards, I've set aside 3 criteria to determine in which tier each card should go into. The criteria are as follows. 1. How much does the card adhere to the dad's themes? Basically, how much does the card fit into the kit of the dad? How unique is the card? And how much does it kind of cement the dad's identity in the game? Number 2, how good is the card? Is it a good card? When I designed the cards for Deck Dads, I tried to make them all have a purpose, but obviously with so many cards in the games, they can't all be perfectly equal. And lastly, how fun is the card to use? It's just a matter of fact. Some cards are more fun to use than others. Even some bad cards are some of the most fun cards to use. That'll be the most important criteria for determining in which tier a card should go into. So we've got quite the banger to start off here with the Bucket, one of the most iconic cards in Deck Dads. Yeah, it is also just quite a basic block. Every dad has a card exactly like Bucket, part of the starting deck, just a simple block 3. In my opinion, I'm always more happy to see basic blocks than basic attacks in my deck. So, but it is quite average. So I'm going to start out in C tier, just because it's good, but gets a lot better. Next I'll actually do the Spade, because that's kind of the Bucket's counterpart. It's the BARD's basic attack. The BARD isn't known for being super offensive. The BARD is more about cementing board control. So, I mean, no dad is super happy to have their basic attack when they have other options. It's fine at the start of the game, but if you're looking to get rid of a card, this is the card you're probably getting rid of to start with as the BARD. So, I don't think this can go in any tier, but D for disappointing. Next, we have Grow Up, one of the best pun-related cards in the game. Grow Up is also, we're starting with all of the starting cards that you'll find in the BARD's deck. Grow Up is among them. It's pretty good. For 1 energy, you can block. Let's see, if you're surrounded by 4 plants and you have 1 plant on your tile, you can block for up to 12 for 1 energy. That's pretty great, but that's like an ideal scenario. Most of the time, you're probably getting 1 or 2 out of this, but listen, this is much better than a basic block, so it would not be fair to keep it in C. That belongs in B. Seed Packet. This is the single most exciting card in your starting deck. You see, I mean, this is the card that gets the ball rolling. It's just fantastic, isn't it? Like, your entire goal as the BARD is to cover the entire board in a jungle that is of your design and is a total mess for anybody else to tread through. Just because it is rather basic, I think it has to go in B tier. Because of all your cards in your starting deck, it is the one you're the most excited to see. But there's plenty of other cards that you can buy later that do the job much better or just overall more exciting. So I don't think we have to leave some room above it. Next is Speed Walk. Speed Walk, I mean, it's pretty fantastic, right? It's a total discount on moving. Normally moving 1 costs 1 energy. Speed Walk lets you move 2 for 0. So that's like infinitely better. Not all of the time you want to be moving as the BARD. Like, if you can get your jungle set up and you can tuck yourself in a corner, moving isn't very necessary, because you can use other cards, like the next card on the tier list, to attack from wherever on the board. So, I mean, it's great, but it doesn't exactly fit the kit perfectly. So, I think that's a perfect B tier card. Next, we have Wet My Plants. So this is the biggest nuke in the starting deck, and actually the last card in the starting deck. This rather effectively completes the Yard Bard's desire to make a whole jungle and then explode the entire board with it. Wet My Plants can attack from range. It can do a ton of damage. You can dole out the damage. You can do it all to one player or other players if you're playing with more than 2 people. The damage is a little measly if you're not able to get your jungle started. Like in a game where you only you're struggling to plant plants and your board control is looking a little scant. Wet My Plants isn't going to be doing very much. You'd rather be drawing other cards. But is there anything more satisfying than pulling off the perfect combo with a giant Wet My Plants? That's why I think this has to go in A tier. Alrighty, we can move on to the cards that you'll find in the Yard Bard's bonus deck. You can add these cards into your deck by buying them. You don't just get to start the game with them. First, we have Allergies. This is a lot like Wet My Plants. It does damage in a radius, just 1 tile away from each plant. Also letting you attack with range. This one has a bit of a higher damage possibility. 1, because the damage is 3 instead of damage is 2. And also it can hit more than 1 player at once if you're playing in a game with more than 2 people. Something about it just feels a little worse though. Like, it doesn't have quite the range that Wet My Plants does. So even though the possibility for a much higher kaboom is there, I think it's pretty much on par. I don't think it's anything crazy. It's still pretty good though. Next is Aloe Vera. So this card, at first it might seem pretty great. Removing a plant, healing 2. There aren't very many ways to heal in deck dads. The Yard Bard is the class that has the most ways to heal, at, if I'm not mistaken, 2 different ways. Oh, that's not true. Once we get to farther, you'll see. But Aloe Vera, healing 2 is, for 1 energy, is standard. It's fine. Removing a plant as a cost is fine. You might buy this card in a pinch if you have a ton of ways to get a bunch of plants and you need outlets to use them. Aloe Vera is there for you. But anything that removes a plant, if it isn't changing the game in a big way, it can feel less than exciting. So I'm going to put this in conditionally good. It's not for every deck. Alright, I'm going to pick up the pace a bit. Carnivory. This lets you move plants around and deal damage at the same time. As you'll see, there's another card called Transplant that lets you move cards around. But further than Carnivory. Carnivory only lets you move 1 tile at a time. But for that damage 4 for 1 cost and the bonus effect of moving a plant, another card that lets you damage from anywhere on the board, Carnivory's pretty good. I think this deserves a B tier. Alright, this next one is not even fair. It is my favorite card from the Yard Bard. It is Bamboozle. The best part about Yard Bard, undoubtedly, planting plants. This is the only card in the kit that lets you plant 2 plants at once. So it just accelerates your playstyle. It enables a lot of sweet combos. I think that's all there is to say about it. Cornhole. I'll actually do Cornhole and Seed Bomb, one right after the other. They're pretty similar. They differ in the fact that Cornhole plants and then damages, and Seed Bomb damages and then plants. So Cornhole, you always are able to make a plant no matter what. Seed Bomb, you need to be able to hit somebody in order to do damage. So that's why they have slightly different costs. You'll see Cornhole's cost 3, Seed Bomb coming up will be cost 2. Cornhole also does more damage, but that 3 energy cost is prohibitive. Most of the times you're still willing to pay that, especially with some damage attached, but This will be your entire turn for one plant and some damage. Some turns that's worth it. Not every turn. Like I said, we have Seed Bomb next. Damaging 5, a little bit less than Cornhole, a little bit less range, and then it only plants if it's able to hit somebody. For less cost, actually, I think this makes this a little bit better than Cornhole, because it still lets you do something else on your turn. So that's going in B. Disc Golf. This one is an interesting case, because depending on the board, which deck you're playing on, this can either be really good or really useless. At most, if you have a perfect shot all the way across the board, that's 6 damage maximum for 1 energy. That's double a basic card, like Spade, which is a pretty great rate, but how often are you actually getting that? Important to note, your plants don't count as obstructed tiles, so you can shoot through your plants just fine. But any railings, any obstacles on the board will muck up Disc Golf, and some boards just have a bunch of obstacles with not a lot of empty spaces, so I think this one has to go in C. Rather conditional. Garden Hose. This is the one card in the Yard Bard's kit that lets you move players around. If I'm not mistaken, it's the only one. And I'm not sure how useful that is. For 2 costs, for 2 damage, you're not playing this card for the damage. You're using this card, hopefully, to push other players around into your plants. It's not very good. This card could probably use with a buff. This one isn't... For 2 whole energy, there's other things you'd rather be doing. So this one, I think, has to go in disappointing. Harvest lets you, well, it doesn't let you remove 1 plant. You don't get to choose. It's all plants. Then damage equal to twice the amount of plants you remove. So obviously, if you're able to plant all 10 plants or 7 or 8 plants and you're able to play Harvest, you can hit somebody with damage that they ain't blocking. Harvest lets you basically overcome any defenses, pretty much any defense, and just wipe somebody out of the game. So if the other players know you have this card, they're going to want to stay away from you. They're going to respect you. The cost, obviously, you spend all game playing your plants, and if for whatever reason they're able to stop Harvest going through, they have some crazy block combo, you'll be paying the price afterwards. But I think this is one of the best cards that the Yard Bard has. Just being able to choose when somebody gets knocked out of the game, that's pretty powerful stuff. Moving swiftly along, we have the biggest heal in all of Deck Dads, Home Remedy. The downside of Home Remedy is that it vanishes after you use it, but honestly, that hardly matters. Home Remedy lets you heal for 5. That is up to half of your entire maximum hit points. This card is crazy. Definitely, actually great. Just because it's a fantastic card, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It does get rid of itself after you use it, which is a bit of a letdown, but this can bring you back from the brink. Lawnmower. This card makes me laugh. Let's see, remove up to 2 plants, and then draw a whole bunch of cards. This card can be really funny with one of the colorless cards that let you deal damage based on the amount of cards in your hand. So, Lawnmower, it can let you, if there's a card in your deck that you ever, like, God, I wish I had this card right now, Lawnmower is there. It'll help you get there. 3 times the amount of plants you remove, that's, like, you can, and it's a 0-cost card. Obviously, you pay the cost of removing plants, which is energy you spent beforehand, but Lawnmower is always a good time to use. This is a card that justifies removing plants. I think it's actually great. I'm here to say it. Market. Another outlet, or rather, another way to use the plants on your board by gaining money. Every dad has a way to gain money. This is the Yard Bards, other than just, obviously, spending energy to get money. Market, somehow, to me, it always feels like it falls a bit short. I've never had, like, a crazy market game. it depends on if you're able to get your herb garden going, and by the time that happens, like, you have better things to do, quite honestly. And, well, for the Yard Bard specifically, the Yard Bard likes to have a very thin deck to draw, like, the most impactful cards. Market has never felt like that for me, but, I mean, if you have a bunch of plants on the board, you can make some serious bucks, so... Disappointing might be where this truly belongs, but I'm going to put it in conditionally good, because even though I've never seen it pop off, I believe in it. You are out of time. Out of time is another card like Wet My Plants and Allergens, but the damage comes from you instead of the plants around you. Anytime in deck dads you see a card that uses the word twice, you should pay close attention to that card. Those are usually the most impactful cards in the game. Out of time being one of them. If you're able to have a whole bunch of plants around you, within 3 tiles of you, that's a crazy big range, right? So let's say, for example, you're able to get 5 plants within 3 tiles of you. That's not a crazy ask. This can be a 10 damage card. That's enough if your opponent is a little bit damaged, or if they're not able to draw any blocks, you can wipe somebody out for not even all of the energy on your turn. This only costs 2 energy. This is a crazy bang for your buck. I think this is seriously fun. Not to clog up the S tier too much, but Photosynthesis is another ridiculous card. Gain 1 energy for each plant within 1 tile of you. Oh baby, I mean, this is like... This pairs perfectly. If you're able to get this and Out of Time in the same deck, you have a seriously good shot at winning. I mean, energy is the lifeblood of deck dads. The more energy you have, basically the more turns you get. Photosynthesis, it costs an energy, but you're always making that back if you're adding this to your deck. This could enable some crazy combos. It can let you run across the entire board. It can let you make a whole bunch of money in 1 turn. So, I mean, Photosynthesis, I have seen some crazy combos with this card, so it has to go in S tier. So is a lot like your basic seed packet card. Cost the same, the only difference is the range. It lets you shoot seeds across the entire map. 6 range is the maximum possible range for a deck and deck dads. So it's not fair to put it in the same tier as the seed packet because it is a strict upgrade and the art looks like a hot dog bun, so it's going in actually great. Subdivide. Actually quite similar to so. Plant 1 within 1 tile of a plant. Basically lets you copy and paste a plant 1 tile over, letting you plant anywhere on the board if you're able to already have a plant there. So I think this is a very similar card to So. Just kind of pads out the bonus deck with more ways to plant plants. So that's exactly where it's going. Sun Hat. Block 3 and draw 1. This is the only card other than Lawnmower that lets the Yard Bard draw cards. So, I mean, Sun Hat is obviously a strict upgrade from the basic bucket. It blocks the same and lets you draw. That's pretty great, isn't it? So, but it's not like game-breakingly good. You're always happy to take this card, but you're never like thrilled about it. So this is definitely a better than others. Weed Whacker. If you saw my first video on deck dads, you saw this card go crazy. Especially if you're playing with a couple of friends and you can get them all to line up and just mow them all down with a Weed Whacker. I mean, for 2 energy, if you hit 2 people with it, that's 10 damage. That's like you can spend a whole bunch of time setting up Out of Time to do that. It's more flexible in the sense that obviously you can move a plant from anywhere on the board. You can be in one corner, hit somebody on the other side. But the cost of having to remove a plant also hurts a little bit. So it is great, don't get me wrong. It is actually great, but it doesn't quite hit the acme at the top here. Sunscreen. This just feels like an obligatory card to include or to have made for the Yard Bard. Blocking and planting in the same card, could it get any better? The only downside is that it is quite a big investment for that 3 energy. The funny thing, though, I've seen, well, myself and my playtesters who have played, I've seen them use this card, all 3 energy, just to make a plant. Sometimes you're that desperate. So, even if they have no damage coming at them. Any way to make plants is obviously great, but sunscreen, that's your entire turn right there. Lastly, we have Transplant. So, Transplant, it's a very simple card. It lets you move between 1 and 4 plants, up to 2 tiles each. So, I mean, this is obviously great for if you're trying to hit things with Wet My Plants or allergens, or if you need to summon a horde of plants around yourself for Grow Up. But if you don't have a way to use your plants yet in your deck, or if all you have is Wet My Plants, Transplant isn't doing anything. So this is kind of a better late game card after the game's progressed a bit and people have moved around. This lets you move your plants to where you need them to be. It's alright. I've seen some pretty good combos with it. And it's better than a lot of your starting cards. So you know what? I'm going to put it in B, better than others. Excuse the slightly scuffed quality, but that is my ranking of the Yard Bards cards. Let me know if you agree on anything, disagree. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts. So, yeah, that'll be it for this video. Make sure, if you haven't already, check out Deck Dads. I've linked it down in the description. You can play for free in the public playtest now. Do check out my Discord, like and subscribe, but most importantly, let me know which dad you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching.